Good afternoon. My name is Virginia Taylor, and I am the program director for the Compelling Preaching Initiative for Baptist Women in Ministry of North Carolina. That is a grant we received from the Lilly Endowment. And it has three kind of goal areas in it, and one of those goal areas is technology and using technology. And one of the things that one of our first tasks was to create a theology of technology. And we had a little retreat where we went off to study and write. We've been reading books and stuff. And I told my daughter, who's 35, who grew up in church, by the way, I said, we're like doing an article where we're using the Bible about what the Bible says about using technology. And she's like, well, that should be really easy. Nothing. And I said, but does it? So I want to ask you, don't switch it yet, Tonya. So I want to ask you, can you think of any examples of the use of technology in Scripture? Okay, yes. Writing letters. Whoa, you just stole all my thunder. Yes, this is my favorite verse, which is what you just said, from 2 John. Although I have much to write to you, I would rather not use paper and ink. Instead, I hope to come to you and talk with you face to face so that our joy may be complete. Okay. So it's not, it's not should we use technology, but how we use it. And that's really what we're going to talk about today, is how we can use technology in a faithful way. So I don't know how it was. Did anybody's church live stream services before the pandemic? Okay, how many people are doing it since the pandemic or the pandemic? Yeah. So I remember I was serving on a church staff, and on Thursday night, before that Friday the 13th, the staff had an emergency meeting and said, what if we can't gather on Sunday? What are we going to do? And in that very short period of time, we came up with, let's somehow stream it. And then began, which I'm sure for everybody, this really long process of trying to do the best and looking at cameras and all that. But we were just learning as we went along. Did anybody stop streaming after the pandemic? No. But what we realized in some of our studies is that we've kept streaming, but we haven't really looked at how we're using that. The Good Samaritan is the story that we used in thinking about this question, especially related to streaming or even any use of technology. Who is my neighbor? And so you think about the Good Samaritan story. The guy's beat up. A Levite comes by, and he sees him and doesn't. And it says by chance he came by him. So there was no intention, no crime, no intention, and he kept going. And then the second person comes by, a priest. He by chance, it says likewise, by chance, goes by him, keeps going. And then the Good Samaritan comes near to him, touches him, finds out what he needs, takes him, makes sure he's provided for, all those things. That is the neighbor in that situation. So we thought, how do we apply this to the way we do streaming and stuff at church? Because most churches, they put that camera on the pulpit, and that's it. And it's an unintentional thing. By chance, they're catching some people. But what about that person on the other side? What are they doing for them or with them? And an example that I heard recently from a friend of mine whose in-laws had been really super involved in their church in another state. And they moved to be near their kids. And they moved into not an assisted living, but a community for older adults. And they were in this new city, and even though they had taught Sunday school forever at their church, they had sung in the choir, been super involved in their church, they didn't feel comfortable in their new city driving to church. That felt like too much for them. But in their community where they're living, they actually streamed a big Baptist church service in a big room kind of like this, so they could have a sense of community and go to church. And this church, and I'm not going to ever name it because it doesn't matter, because it probably could be many of our churches, but this church even had an online sign-up form where you could say, yes, I'm a visitor here, and they had filled that out and everything, but they had never heard from anybody at the church or anything. And those of us who've been on church staffs know that no one sat in a staff meeting and said, let's intentionally ignore those people. No, it was just life was busy and they didn't have time. So the gentleman in this couple developed a health crisis and was going to the hospital. And his daughter-in-law thought, he really needs a pastoral presence. And so she called the church, took the initiative, called the church, said, my in-laws have been attending virtually. They filled out a form and everything. They're having a health crisis. They need someone to go to the hospital and pray with them. Could you do that? And they said, absolutely. Yes, they could. So that kind of prompted us to ask all of you to think about, how could we be more intentional about reaching the people who were on the other side of that camera? And fortunately for us in North Carolina, we have Dr. LaTonya Penny, who is the pastor of an online church. But it's not just a point and shoot church. I guess, can we call them that? Point and shoot, I don't know. But I know. But anyhow, so this is the good part of the workshop, where now you're going to hear about the things they have done to help really truly connect with the people in their church. Okay, so here you go.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Now, I know if you went to the luncheon, that chicken is resting on your stomach, and that rice or pilaf or whatever that was is resting, and you're probably a little bit sleepy. So if you need to wiggle jiggle, that's fine with me. I'm Dr. LaTonya Penny. I am the founding pastor of Belonging Fellowship. I am not the only pastor. My husband hates to say that, but he serves in ministry with me. I don't call him a co-pastor. He calls me the lead pastor, and he's just a pastor, but he is here with me in the back. Can you wave, everybody? Wave to the people. Thank you, honey. So in 2021, I was pastoring a traditional church in Roxborough, North Carolina. And so I had gotten them almost through the pandemic, and we took a pivot. But let me back up to, you all stopped when the governor said you can't go in, right? We stopped the week before that. All right, so I was bivocational. I ran a domestic violence agency, and on my board was a gentleman who does something for the government, who to this day I still don't know what, but he knew things before everybody else knew things. And so he had already converted my full-time office to going virtual, providing domestic violence services. He had us meeting and moving fast. And so I thought to myself, if he's doing this for them, I better do that for my church. So we closed a week before everybody else. My deacons looked at me like I was crazy. They were like, no, it's just a little sickness. No, we're closing. So I had to learn very quickly how to go live from my dining room. Yes. Very beautiful setup. My husband was the camera person, and my kids had to sit quietly in a corner and not make too much noise. The dog had to not bark because we were live from the dining room. Some pastors chose to go live from their churches. It would have been a 40-minute commute to the church just to go live, so we did it from our dining room. I fell in love with online church. We were reaching people we could never reach in the big city of Roxborough, North Carolina. That's a joke. That's a joke. It's not a big city. And so when it was time for the church to reopen, I preached one Sunday back in. And I left that pulpit that day and told my husband, I don't think this is it. Because I had lost something in the midst of the pandemic. So fast forward, and we had been meeting with some of the people that God had put on my heart that I wanted to do ministry different. God had given us a name and all of these things. And I was like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? And so God gave me a list of people, and I called this list of people up and said, I am being led to do something different. I'm not real sure if it's a church. I'm not real sure if it's just a ministry, but it's going to be a space where everybody can belong. Not a hybrid space, but a space where everyone is on the same playing field. This group of people said, we're with you. So they helped finance us and get us going, and we started Belonging Fellowship. And our tagline is, it's a space where all of God's children can belong. Now, by chance, I'm also a disability advocate, right? So I write, and my doctoral work is on about inclusion for those who are differently able or disabled, depends on how they choose to identify, and how we include them into services. Usually I lecture on that when I'm in places like this. However, one thing that God put on my heart about hybrid services is the person on the opposite side of that computer is watching you have service. You don't get to watch us have service because everybody's on the same playing field. I'm the only person on camera. Our musician, when we have a musician, is on camera, but you're not watching others worship like you do in so many other places. So we wanted to do something a little bit different, and so we started with Belonging Fellowship. Now, these are some of the strategies that we did some research on. I think this was supposed to be one of your slides, but that's my fault. And so it kind of relates to us. What we decided to do was to use the platforms that we knew worked. We use YouTube and we use Facebook. Originally, we only started with Facebook, and we realized there are a lot of people who are just not on social media. And so we didn't want to limit ourselves to just broadcasting to people on social media. So we have a YouTube page. The lovely thing about good technology is I'm not having to log in, my husband's not having to log in to go to all these different platforms. We log into one platform and stream to all these things at one time. And so we're able to do that. We wanted to make it easy for viewers to be engaged as well. Now, we don't do live polling on Sundays, but we might do that on a Wednesday when we're doing our live Bible study. Our Sunday service looks live, but it's not. It's pre-recorded. Looks like we might be live, but we are pre-recorded. But we do try to do as much as possible. You'll hear me say something, even when I'm preaching, somebody put that in the chat. And somebody on our team is literally putting that in the chat. Or somebody who's watching us is typing it in the chat on all the platforms that we're on. We use social media to just get engagement. We're not as good with Instagram as I would like, but we're slowly getting there, where we are making sure that we are connecting with people on all platforms. But on everything we do, all of our social media links are present. And our telephone number, everything is always present. We don't offer on-demand Bible study. However, if you are on our app, which I'll talk about later, you can always go back and watch our Bible study. And typically our Bible study will have a handout. If I'm having a really good week, it'll have a handout connected to it. That's also accessible via our app. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. Now, this is where I'm not good at because we're a low budget church, right? So we're doing this on a very small budget, but the larger churches have the ability to enhance their visual and audio quality by adding in more things that are catchy to keep people's attention, but that can be good and bad. So the good thing is if you add things in, you are keeping people's attention. The bad thing is you've got to have a pretty strong streaming system to be able to do a lot of things that you want to be able to do. And you're going to click, just hit the down arrow for me. And we're going fast so we can, spend more time talking. So we have a team that does more than just church. So we preach online, we teach Bible study online, although I will be canceling Bible study tonight because pastor and the other pastor are going to be at a baseball game. So we will be canceling tonight. But we have a team, we have a planning committee team. We don't have deacons, we have a leadership team because the leaders did not want to be called deacons. They were like, oh no, we don't want those kind of titles. So we have a leadership team and we have a planning team. Our planning team meets and tries to come up with projects or ministry opportunities where we're able to think outside of the box because we don't have a physical space. We're in La La Land, right? We're only virtual. The picture that you're seeing here is a bunch of our volunteers, including our daughter, when we partnered with an elementary school to do an Easter egg hunt. And our Easter egg hunt was not just a traditional Easter egg hunt. It was an Easter egg hunt that had a special sensory area only. And I'm only using pictures of the people that are connected to our church because we don't do things for photo ops. But we have section just for those who have special needs or whatever sensory needs. And if the parent has connected with us beforehand, we make sure we can meet those needs before they show up. We have volunteer opportunities for adults and children. The children love doing the Easter egg hunts and setting that up, although they think they're too grown to do most things. They loved hiding Easter eggs. And we always approach these projects with several questions in mind. I used to be an English teacher, so I go back to the basics, the who, what, when, where, and how, right? And the why. So our team always asks these questions. Who are we serving? So if we're gonna plan an event, we're not just gonna plan it to be planning it. I mean, we're all busy people. We're not just gonna give up a Saturday just to give up a Saturday. But who are we actually targeting? And who are we actually trying to reach? What is the goal, right? The Easter egg hunt was not just for an Easter egg hunt. We also gave away free clothes. We also gave away free food. We also had a communion service at the same time. We also had school supplies available. It was us serving this entire school or community that was right across the street from 2 low-income neighborhoods. So these kids could literally run over, get the things that they need, and connect with us. We ended up working with parents who needed help with their children who have individualized education plans, or what's called IEPs. So they have special education services. We became like this whole massive thing, all because we gave an Easter egg hunt, right? And it was our ministry moment for that month. So although we do virtual, we have belongers, that's what we call our members, that are spread out throughout many different states. But when we do come together, we're very intentional on what we're doing it and why we're doing it, when it'll happen. Like, we want to make sure that it's appropriate time for the community, and we're doing our research around the community, and how we do it, and that is, how are we going to implement it so we can reach everyone? Because we are very adamant about reaching and being able to reach all of God's children. All right, so use technology for good, not just online, but in all that you do. One of the things that I have noticed with most traditional churches, again, I came from traditional church. I was the first female pastor of this 112-year Baptist church, and I stayed 6 years and 11 months. I almost made it to 7, almost made it to 7. But what I realized there is they didn't like technology. They were forced because of the pandemic. But when we went back for the first Sunday, once we reopened, and I had to come in and set up cameras and was teaching them not to walk in front, and they were like, we don't want to do all this. Of course, now that I'm gone, they're streaming service, but we had to use it for good, right? We had to use it for what it could be used for. And so when you're thinking about technology, it's also like putting words on screens. Like, that's so simple. That's actually common for most churches. Well, guess what? Last night it wasn't so common. Last night in our late night service, some of the words were on the screen, and then they would disappear. And it's like, for the people who don't know the song, a basic, simple technological thing you could have done was keep the screens up and keep the words on the screen. It's about thinking about how you can reach people in many different ways. One of our most powerful tools is an app called Tithely, Tithely. If you don't have Tithely, it's worth the subscription fee. Because we were a startup church, we were free for a year or 2 years, I can't remember. But we have our own custom app. They designed it. Now, you can go build your own app. That is extremely expensive. They are like a plug and play. You tell them what you want, you meet with them, they design it, and you can change it really quickly. The reason we went with Tithely is because we can text from that app. We can send out prayer requests. All of our services are there. They can send in prayer requests pretty instantaneously. They can do all kinds of stuff through our Tithely app. So that's just one way that you can connect. We also use a different text messaging app. So what they don't realize, some people don't realize, our inner people, the people who are with us for a while, realize that most of the time I'm the other person on the other end of that text line, but most people don't think it's me. They can text when they're having issues. So there's a number they can text for prayer. And there's a number that the same number they can text if they want to request an appointment or any of those things. We try to make it as tech-friendly and savvy as possible. Can you guess who uses that number more than anybody else? My college students. My college students. And I was shocked the first time I got a message. I was like, is this what? And they don't have to use their name. But I could tell by the situation who that particular person was. But it's a safe way for them to communicate and to be able to stay connected in real time, right? And get real response and real prayer. It's just texting app, just any kind of texting app. I use Grasshopper, which is really a phone system, because the phone system doesn't require me to have like a real phone. So it's an app that you put on your cell phone or on your computer. Multiple people can have access to it. It sounds just like you call a regular church. It has extensions. Our youth ministry has an extension. You know, they're different, just like you would call any other place, but all of those people who have extensions have the ability to instantly text their population of people. And it's really easy to use, and it's like 20 some bucks a month. Like, it's really inexpensive. So we use that because we're able to create real-time conversations. You can set up groups. We can set up all kinds of different things. This is the question I get. Well, first of all, several people who know that I used to pastor a traditional church will say, how's that little ministry of yours? Are you still doing that? You know, that little online thing? And I think it's hilarious because I go, yeah. And we take in almost just about the same amount of money that I took in a freestanding church. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. They'll ask me the other question about, well, what do you do about baptism? What do you do about communion? What about, you know, the liturgical calendar? Do you keep up with any of those things? And yeah, we do. Now, we have not had to baptize because most of the people who have come to us are transitioning out of other spaces. However, we do have a plan for baptism. We're going to show up in your city with a baptism pool that is portable, and we will set up a day and make sure we baptize you, right? It's not that complicated, right? There are people who do community baptisms all the time. You overthink it, right? If you have a pool in your house, guess what, sweetheart? I'll come baptize you there, right? You know, you just have to think outside of the box when it comes to making sure you're meeting those expectations. Our communion is every first Sunday because that is the old-fashioned Baptist girl in me. I cannot let that go. It is every first Sunday. And we mail out communion kits. Or if you are in one of our cities that we have like pockets of belongers. So because I started out in Roxborough, North Carolina, there's a group that are in the Raleigh-Durham, Roxborough area. So there are 3 different people who will order communion, and they can pick it up. If they're near you, they can drop it off, and they'll give you enough for a few months. Or we can ship it directly to your house if you're not close by. I love mailing communion kits. We try to do them in bulk, so we're not mailing it to you once a month, but you'll get a set. And we keep a set at home in our cabinet. My kids think it's funny, the sanitized Jesus in the cabinet. So we still do those same kinds of things. We just have to think a couple of steps ahead to make sure you have what you need. Or if you're new, you might hear me say, or my husband, say something like, we'll give you a moment to gather a cracker, some juice, whatever you have at home. We'll bless it, and we will have communion together. Where all of God's children can come to the table. I don't care if it's an animal cracker. We're all going to come to the table, right? Because it's not what the bread is, it's what it represents, right? Advent, Lent, Ash Wednesday, you name it, we cover it. Now, the one thing that I have yet to pull off, that I am determined to pull off, is a multiple city Ash Wednesday anointing. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it one of these days. When my team gets a little bit bigger, we're going to be in several cities at the same time, in locations, being able to impose ashes and blessings in different locations. All it takes is planning and a little bit of more people. I just don't have enough bodies yet to get us there. We do a Advent series every year. For a couple of years, we had different people and different families light the candle. What they would do is pre-record themselves, whether it was some actually went out and bought their own Advent wreath, which was not necessary. It could have just been, I don't care if it's a candle from Bath and Body Works. It's a candle, right? We're gonna bless it. You're gonna be in your house. You're gonna light it. You're gonna read the reading like you would in a traditional church. You'll send it to us. We put it in service, and you are now a part of service, right? It is reaching into the community, reaching them in their homes, and connecting them back to us as much as possible. This is what I really want people to know. It is real cute to have streaming services. It is real cute to say, we reach 5,000 people online. Yeah, you might be reaching them, pushing out, but are you pulling them in, right? That's why we do those ministry moment projects. That's why we do book studies. We have a group that's doing a devotional together right now. It's a 12-week devotional where I literally took the books myself and shipped them to individuals to make sure they could participate. That's why we think outside the box to come up with ways we can get people to connect, even if it's in small pockets of people, so that they are not just being preached at, but they're building community at the same time. We did, in January, we always do our vision boards. We did multiple city vision boards, which I was so excited about because we did multiple cities. And we showed up in those cities and said, hey, we're going to be doing vision boards. You can register. So we got a head count. And they came and hung out with me. We did vision boards and we had coffee at coffee shops. We intentionally picked the coffee shops that we did for multiple reasons, preferably those who hire people with disabilities. And we were able to build community. So now that coffee shop knows that they can depend on us to come and give them business, and our people know that's a safe place for them to come in and hang out and to continue to build community. But online people need you. If you have the ability to have an amazing website, use it well, right? I wish I had a media team that could really do an amazing website and have all the glitz and the glamour like some of the larger churches. But it does you no good if it's just for information purposes and it's not an interactive resource, right? That's why we lean so heavily on our app, because we can move in that real time, where some other churches can do that in a website pretty quickly. One way you can do that is by having an online designated pastor that is actually chatting with people in the service. There is somebody from Belonging Fellowship in the service on Sunday, even though we're not live, there is a live person talking to the people, welcome them in to the chat and saying, hey, I see that you joined us, welcome. And you got to be pretty quick because they pop in pretty quick. But when you say their name in the chat, they usually stay. Because it'll say such and such is watching. And you know, that person will type, welcome such and such. Thank you for joining us today. And if it's a name they haven't seen before, it'll be like, we think you're a first-time visitor. Thank you for visiting with us today. We give our email address out, our telephone number out every single service. And if anyone emails or texts, we respond pretty quickly with some welcome information. One reason we do that is because you can click and watch a bunch of different services. But if nobody ever reaches back out to you, how do you build your community? I listen to a lot of different preachers because that's how I get preached to, but I don't feel connected to those churches. I just listen to the sermon. We don't want to be that for people. We want to make sure that you feel like you have a sense of community. The reason I think God put this on my heart when God did was because so many families who have children or adults with special needs stop going to church. And yes, many people will say they have disability ministries. That's a whole conversation for a whole other day of why you need to rename that. But they will say they have ministries, but there will be kids or adults whose needs are too high for them to serve. And that does just as much damage for them to show up in a space and say, oh, I heard you have a disability ministry. Well, your kid is too high. The spectrum is, we stop here, your kid's here. And then they're further pushed away. We are intentional. You hear me say at the beginning of service, please do what you need for this service to be accommodating to you. Whether that is turning us up, turning us down, starting your closed captioning, moving us to a platform that meets your needs, do what you need to do. Maybe you should get a fidget or a weighted blanket, whatever you need to do to make sure that you know you belong here almost every single Sunday. Not always the same sentence, but very close, to let people know whatever you need to do to feel like you belong, do it. Whether it's grabbing your kids or putting them in a different section, whatever you need to do so that you can fully participate, please know that you belong here. And it's creating that sense of belonging where they feel like they can pick up the phone and call their pastor, or they can pick up the phone and text their pastor, or whatever they need to do. We don't want to be a church that's just a church. We want people to know that we are still your pastor, even if I live in a different state. If I got to catch a flight, I'll catch a flight. We will show up. And we're starting to get more information from, I think it's YouTube that can show us where people are watching from. And so we're starting to see certain like trends and pockets. And the more we pay attention to those trends and pockets, we can do more intentional work around doing events in other cities. So now it's usually where we have a group that we know will show up and do the work or help do the planning, and we'll build around those teams. So I picked these pictures intentionally. So this one is a person watching others worship. This one is a person who's watching just the preacher. This is a group of people who are able to gather as a family with a notebook in hand, coffee, or I'm assuming that's a juice, I don't know what that is, and a snack, and they're able to like fully be a part of that because they are participating in their own comfort, in their own space, right? That is what the body of Christ needs to be able to show up in church, whether I'm in your zip code or not, and fully participate in a way that speaks to my soul and that really benefits all who are involved. I can't remember if that's the last one or not. No. All right, streamers versus members. This is an actual real event that we hosted at a different church, teaching other churches how to work with children and adults who have disabilities. But what I wanted to point out is that we try our best to show up in spaces, whether we're connecting with another church, because this is another church's space, to build those connections with other churches. We have other churches who actually have given to our ministry in support of some of the projects that we do because they don't have the capacity to take on some of the projects, that they'll just join in with us. But we're trying to make real connections, intentional communications, and showing up. And the other thing is sharing about the people who are watching with their permission, right? So whether that is telling a story that one of them shared or celebrating somebody's anniversary that you have never met, but they're online, but they told you it was their anniversary. Making sure that you are the same thing you would do in church, right? Today is Susie and John's 25th anniversary. Wave to everybody, Susie and John. Well, guess what? Susie and John is not in my living room or whatever room I'm recording from that day. But if Susie and John tell me, I'm going to say happy anniversary. If I know your birthday's coming up, I'm going to tell you happy birthday. And I'm going to call your name, right? And it makes a difference, making those intentional connections. I think that was it, right? Yep, this is the last one. So we have the churches in the 4 walls and beyond. So yes, almost all of you, probably all of you are in traditional church settings. Church is in the 4 walls. You've got to do the work in the 4 walls. But how do you move beyond the 4 walls? Not just sending information out, but becoming a community that's within and beyond the walls. We must create those communities that reaches them where they are and becomes a part of who they are so that they show up. If someone doesn't show up that shows up on a regular basis, because I do actually watch service, I turn myself down when I'm preaching. Like when it's my part on preaching, I turn myself down. I don't always want to hear myself, but I'm there because I want to see who's showing up. And if a person is missing, I will email them. Hey, or I'll send them a text if I know them that well. I realized you weren't in church today. It's online. You weren't in service today. Just want to check in on you. I did that to one person, and she said, oh, Pastor, I watch on Mondays on now because my schedule changed, and my mama wants me to go to our home church, so I got to go usher at church. So I watch you on Monday. I said, okay, I won't bother you anymore. But on Monday, she'll send me a text message and go, service was good today. She watched it a whole different day. But just making sure I'm looking for you, that they know that I am watching out for them, that I am covering them in prayer, or I'll send random messages to them and say, hey, you're on my mind today. What can I pray for? And I will send them the prayer that God gives me. I work full-time as a CEO of a foundation. If I can make time to do that, certainly there's somebody in your church that can do that too, right? We wanted to intentionally leave time for comments, questions, or for you to share ways that you are doing this work in making intentional community in your churches. Anybody want to share? Or any questions?
Curious about how you do that interactive piece. So like, we do stuff online, you know, we send out our service, right? I think we're struggling with how do you recognize who's out there, and then, you know, how do you interact?
Sure.
If you can interact that way. So, I mean, is that with the Tidely app, or is it, I mean, we do it Facebook and Instagram and I think YouTube, perspective, or and on our website.
So there are a couple of different ways. If you have the financial ability to pay for a service that can capture that information for you, or have like I struggle with people using barcodes to scan, because if they're watching you on their phone, how are they going to scan it? But if there's a link that you can drop that they can click, it can be as simple as a Google, like a Google spreadsheet or something like that, a Google survey, where they can drop in their information. So you can capture their name, their telephone number, and things like that. With Tithely, as they set up their account and they connect to our church, I'll know because I can see it. And then I can capture it from there. So once you get that information, it's just creating a standard email or a standard text saying, thank you so much for watching today, welcome, or whatever. Just trying to figure out whatever way you can capture the information, but doing it within the first 48 hours of them connecting.
Yeah.
That's the key. Yeah.
Okay.
And it may be also somebody just, if you're on Facebook and it's streaming on Facebook, somebody needs to be watching that chat, because somebody needs to be talking to them. Most pastors will go, we welcome those who are watching us online, and we want you to know that we're so happy to have you today. Well, if nobody's talking to me but you on that from the platform, nobody in the chat's talking to me. I can say amen. Now, there are some churches that I've watched. My pastor, I still call him my pastor, I interned under Prince Rivers in Winston-Salem, but he's the new, I don't know if it's dean or a new position at Duke, but he's still a pastor. I still watch him on most Sundays. They have built their own community, the people who watch him, right? They've built their own little community in the chat. They'll be like, oh, hey, Susie, it's not his church. It's not somebody from his church. It's like the people in the chat who show up every single Sunday. They have gotten to know each other and like, how's your daughter? I'm like, ma'am, do you know we can all see this? But I thought it was the coolest thing that they've built like their own community. And when I shared that with him, he was like, you gotta be kidding me. I was like, I promise you, these ladies, it's like 4, I think they think they're ushers in the chat. And they're like welcoming people in. On Wednesday nights, I deem somebody an usher. You'll hear me say, it's usually my father-in-law, because he's usually the first person who logs in, almost always. Him or my mother are always first. And I'll say, Granddad or Charles, you are now the usher, because I can't see 2 screens and a chat at the same. I'm good, but I'm not that good sometimes. I don't want to miss anybody. So if as you see names pop up, please welcome them. And he takes that job serious, right? He's like, hi, Bob, thank you for joining us tonight. Or hi, Susie, the scripture is such and such. Like it's about getting them involved in ways that it's not just one person, but multiple people. That's my goal with our college students, is to figure out how to get them to like take a Sunday to do stuff. But service streams at 9 a.m. and they're like, Pastor.
Really?
Like, can't we do a 2 o'clock service? I'm like, y'all no. So they're not doing it yet, but we're working on them being able to do stuff like that.
Do you find that you have some people who don't want to be known?
Yes.
And do you push them on that? How does that work?
Well, it's not. So let me back that up. We're going to acknowledge you in the chat. Hi, Johnny. But if I know Johnny doesn't want me to text him and follow up after, I realize they may not want to respond, or if they don't respond to them, I'm not going to keep pestering people. Right, if we send a welcome email to someone who filled out a form or put their email address in the chat or sent us a private message, if we're sending out to you and you don't respond, Miss Kim, who is like my admin person, will send a message and say, hey, let us know how we can connect with you, or how much connection you would like. Because we want to measure that, because we don't want to be a pester. And so if you're using the app, you can decide whether you get the notifications or not. Because I try to send out a daily devotional. When I'm really, really good, it's pre-planned and sent and done for like a week at a time. And then there are days like today, I've already forgot to send it out, so it's going to be a late one today. But they can control if they get that notification or not. So that gives them the opportunity to create the space they need or lean in as much as they like. That was a good question.
So you own the Tithely app, or?
Oh, no, I wish I did. I'd be loaded.
Own it, but I mean, you subscribe to it.
We subscribe to it. So we partnered with Tithely 3 years ago, And they had a program for startups where you didn't have to pay at the beginning. You had to pay to build your app, but they let you use the service for free. Now we pay, I think it's like $100 a month, but because we use that as our primary source of communication, $100 is not very much. But they had a team that created the app. We were able to tell them what we wanted changed, they made suggestions on how things should lay out. Then they did a training with me, and I think one other person may have been on that call a couple of years ago on how to change the app in on their website. So you can, once they build it, you can change and add and do all kinds of things and push information out pretty quickly. So just like the other systems where you can send mass text messages and things like that, we can do all of that through Tidely. And we can put pictures in there, and we can put, a handout. I told you when I'm really good, a handout for Bible study or things like that. We can do all of that in one app. What you have? We have to use the mic. Disability advocate of me, honey, gotta use the mic. Love you. Mean it.
Yes, ma'am. And here shortly, because of the demand and life changes for us, we will start integrating AI to help produce the Bible study notes along with the interaction. It'll still be us, but it'll help identify and get us better information. And because AI is, let me put it like this, you should not be scared of it. You should be scared of people who aren't using AI because they are not moving with us. AI is really good. AI will allow, once your churches are using it, it will start to learn your work algorithms and your personal language that you use with your congregations, and it'll help to start populating. And everything that your church members have always said, well, Pastor can do that all on his own or her own, it will help diminish the workload that you have because it will now take on your personality. So we'll start incorporating that. I'm using it now with my full-time job in advancement. So now I'm trying to figure out how to do it with our virtual ministry. Even though we're Wednesday, Sunday worship, I'm trying to learn now how to do it where it doesn't come off as a robot speaking to you, but it sounds like Pastor LaTonya or Pastor C communicating.
Can you show us where the app is so that we can look at it now?
You want to see ours?
Yes.
I don't know how to do that online. I do it on my phone. Let me see if I can figure that out. Don't put me on. You see how you just put me on the spot? Only because I love you. Only because I love you. Let's try. Let's see what I can do. I don't know.
Do I go to the App Store?
If you want to put it on your phone, you go to the App Store, whichever platform, whatever phone you have, and you look up Tidely. Download Tidely.
That's Tidely.
Tithely.
You need to show them what the picture looks like.
Okay.
Okay, so there's one that says Tithely.
It looks like a little green leaf.
And another Tidely Church app.
Church app. Mm-hmm. And if you hear any noise, it's because I'm on my work computer and it might send me an email. So if you hear something, just ignore it. So I'm going to show you so this is what I come to almost every day. And because we have the app, so you can use Tidely and not use the app. We use it for the app. So, because it can do it does all of our money management for those who give through Tidely, but we take through 4 different platforms of giving. But those who use Tidely, it all comes here too. So if I go into our app portion, it gives us a dashboard, but it will let me, app pages. See, it'll let me put in notes. So if I put in for that particular sermon called Dream Killers, it let me put in all the graphics and everything, and it took me like 5 minutes. Because once I've typed it up, it's cut and paste. And so it just looks different on your phone than on a computer. Because that's why I didn't set it up to pull from the computer. It just looks different. So you can do things like that. You can pull videos. It typically connects with your YouTube. I don't want to mess something up because I don't know what I'm doing over here, y'all. These are our these are old prayer requests. People can send it in, and that they just fill out. They'll send out a little form, and then it populates in here, and all I have to do is click to approve and all of that, and it'll pop up on the app for everyone to see that that was a prayer request.
So, but once I get inside Tithely, can I pull up?
Yep,
Belonging Fellowship?
Yep, once you just look up Belonging Fellowship.
And it sends you a reminder when it's time for service or Bible study, because I have it.
Yep. See, I wanted to show how it looks online, but like this is how I put in this was the message from yesterday. It was like, have you had your alone time today? Because that was a part of the sermon that I did on Sunday. And it was just me doing a quick check to see if they've taken alone time with Jesus, right? I give them the scripture, it gives them a picture, but of course it doesn't look like this when it pops up on their phone. You can add photos, like we hosted a mammogram bus, and we paid for free mammograms. We've done Fifth Sunday fellowships. We've done something called Bible and Brunch. I'm not as good at putting in pictures because I just don't have that kind of time. I'm gonna do better, y'all. Pray for me. Pray for me. I need like 2 more hours in every day. That's what I need. I wish I could like show it to you. Oh, well, that was like one of the screens. Let me go back. So that's what you see, the recent admin activity. So that's how it looks when it pops up on your phone. See where I'm scrolling at the bottom? But when I click on it, of course, it's not going to look that way. So let's see. No. But I could try to get into our YouTube. There we go. So that's our service.
Good morning and welcome to Belonging.
We don't have audio set up, so.
And I'm so glad you've chosen to work.
But see, you're not seeing a group of people worshiping. It's just like me and a bad hair day that day, but that's okay.
Turning us up, turning us down.
I wish you could hear it because it was like me going turning us up or turning us down.
Whatever you need for this to
But we told the guy we didn't have audio, so we didn't set it up. So,
we want you to do.
any other questions? Did you get to the app?
Yeah, I'm putting all this stuff.
Miss Cheryl knows I call her Mama sometimes. Mama, you get it? Okay. Yes, sir.
You mentioned calling your members belongers.
Uh-huh.
Define that in your church.
What is a member?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hard one. Anybody who comes and hangs out with us, they're belongers. But those who are committed financially, they call themselves belongers. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like I identify, if you come hang out, if you pop on service, hi, you're a belonger now. But when you call yourself one, then you're a member. I don't ask for a letter from your church. I have most of our people attend 2 services. They go to an in-person service, especially if they're in another state. And some of our biggest givers go to my old church. So they go to that church because that's where they grew up in, and they feel obligated because that's where parents are.
And their burial plots are.
And that's their and the burial plots are connected to those churches, and I don't have a burial plot. And so they do that, and they come hang out with us. You know, it's just for them. One of them said, I just got to remember which shirt to wear when. Like literally, she was like, I just got to remember which shirt I'm supposed to put on. So, you know, we do have a finance team for our committed belongers that have been with us. And those people are the ones who started with me. So all my leaders are the ones that started. We've only had one person that has kind of moved their way up. But came in full force and was like, I want to take over social media. And I was like, okay, friend, here you go. You know, so it just depends on their engagement and how much they interact with us. How about you just come on up here? I love you. I love you. But I'm sweating, you're not.
What she is also leaving out, our ministry model was not to be the institutional church.
Yeah.
It was to remove the overhead costs of a mortgage or utilities. Matter of fact, I don't think we spend any money on any type of items. Like I'm the one that does the video editing, not intentionally, but I like to be creative. So the laptop, screens, and the cost of the app is all we pay. Everything else goes to. We do get a little bit of a housing allowance from each month, but it was to remove that. But then also the ministry model was to be an extension of everyone else's church who we partner with. We do know that pastors, even though some of them that do have staff, they're trying to tend to the business of the church affairs, do pastoral care for all the members. But we were, so like she showed the mammogram bus, most pastors don't have the opportunity or the capacity to do it. So we admit, when we talk about planning, we reach out to the churches in the area and says, hey, this is what we're doing. All we need you to do is to supply us with names of individuals who may need access to a mammogram for to make sure the screenings are done properly. And please don't, and if you do this, go ahead and put in your announcements, if they don't have insurance, don't worry. Our offering is going to pay for to cover the cost of the mammogram. So that way the church doesn't feel like it. Our job, or her vision, was for us to be an extension of every church within our area. So we do church together, and belong together versus being under your own name.
So we do try to co-host with people. Some churches don't like to put their names on stuff. They're like, well, can we just put it in our announcements? I don't care, as long as people show up, right? That is, we just want to be able to give. We adopt teachers every year, and so some churches will partner with us then to just write us a check so that we can, we don't want to buy what we think they want. We ask them for a list, and we buy them almost everything on their list. Somebody asked me for a very expensive laminating machine that I was not willing to buy, but I did buy like this huge rug for a classroom. So we stock classrooms, but we partner with other churches. And those teachers are our belongers for the year, and we stay connected to them all year long. So if we adopt them in August and stock their classroom, we restock their classroom in January. So we don't do a one and done, but we also don't do backpacks because every other church does backpacks. We aim for the teachers because I was a teacher and I know how much it comes out of their pockets. So we just make sure that we're connecting with churches who want to connect with us, as well as with folk who, for whatever reason, want to connect with us. And if they want to be like a belonger, hey, buy a shirt. You can come and show up with us. You had a question for me?
I did.
Okay. You have to use the microphone. I'm sorry. He's like, okay.
That's all right. So we live stream our service, but less than 2% of the people actually watch it live. So I love the concept of interacting with people. How do you do it when they're watching the service at 3 a.m. on a Friday night?
I like that question. That's a great question. Because remember, I just told you I have a person who I know watches it on Monday. If I remember, because I know her personally, I'll reach out to her. However, if I am on a game and I can remember to say, but those of you who may be watching this in the days to come, feel free to send us a message. Feel free to let us know. Because if I can't capture their email, I can't respond to them if they're not live because we won't see them pop up. But if they are watching, I try to just keep reminding them to connect with us. Make sure you download our app. Put in the chat that you were there. And so if they're putting things in the chat whenever they're watching, it's going to ding us back, right? So if they're watching on a Thursday at 5 a.m. and they put something in the chat because they got caught up in the spirit and they want to put clapping hands, guess what? Now it's going to let me know that somebody's interacted with it, and I can go back and reach out to them. That's a lot of work, but it works.
So I just made my first donation.
Okay. Well, hallelujah.
You're a belonger.
You're a belonger now.
How do I get the service on the app?
It should be, can you go show her on the app? It's a place that says service, like click that. But again, of course it's Mama. We're going to get you right, Mama. I saw a hand this way. Yes, sir.
I was just going to say, I may be the only one in here that's not in a four-wall church.
Okay.
I've been worshiping with Smoke Rise. I see you back there, Chris. For 3 years.
Okay.
3 years. And this is fascinating.
Tell me what Smoke Rise is.
Lilburn, Georgia, and I live in Cincinnati.
Oh, wow.
And
Hi, Chris, the pastor. Can you tell me about Smoke Rise?
We're a traditional church that's about 50 years old. We were doing some streaming, but a little really before COVID, we tried to up some of our streaming game. We tried to do some of the interactive stuff, but we're so thankful for Jim and Susan and others. We have about 6 clusters of folks, and so we're now trying to create satellite deacons in those clusters.
We should talk. We should talk.
That's what I'm trying to learn from
Yeah.
how you're connecting well. But it's been effective and successful, and we want there to be a high level of personal touch. So I've been to Cincinnati and gotten to see them a couple of times.
Chris that was the only pastoral, I'm a preacher's kid.
Okay.
I don't count living with my dad as a pastoral visit when he was alive. That's the only pastoral visit I've ever had.
Really? And that's once you identified the cluster, or did you ask for it?
No, he came.
But you had already identified there's a cluster there and I'm going to go show up?
Yeah, I just knew, I knew there were two people up there that were worshiping, and I was kind of in the area, and I said, I'd really like to have breakfast with you. Can I come up and
That's what Belonging Fellowship does. Sometimes I'm a little bit more strategic, and I will like put it out into social media land and go, hey, I'm going to be posted up at a coffee shop in Chicago. If you want to come hang out with me, that'd be great. I put it out through the app because I travel a lot for my job. And again, most of the stuff is on the app. But if I have time to do stuff like that, I try to get it out there just to say, hey, if you want to come hang out with me. We do an event called Coffee, Communion, and Conversation that we go to different coffee shops and just post up. You're going to get communion before you go, and I'm going to buy you a cup of coffee. And it's really well attended in different places. But it's doing what you do, show up in those cities and just make those connections. Thank you for highlighting that for us.
I just wanted to add a personal thing. I left, I had served on a church for a while, and I left, and I was without a church. And my daughter's going to church in Ohio now. I live in North Carolina, so I started watching her church virtually because it's a way to connect with her and stuff. And they literally put a phone on a stand, and that's it. But they do say every morning, in my church now, I do have a church now, but they say, welcome to those of you who are online. So minimally, if you could do that, because it really makes a difference, if you're watching it, whenever you're watching it, if somebody says that. Because most of you are in traditional services, I would say things like the next step, besides saying welcome, would be like if you have a bulletin or something that has responsive readings, if you could make that available to people, huge, because most of the time I'm flying blind. Her church doesn't do that. Or the chat thing where I could say, because it gets lonely when you're online by yourself. I'm going to be on, and sometimes I want to be seen. And I understand not wanting to be seen too, but sometimes I want to be seen. Or sometimes I want somebody to pray about something. To have a way where people can reach out to you. I mean, these are things as traditional churches, those few basic things I think would be big. And then I think online minister, and we've been researching and talking to different churches, and some churches do have a designated online minister who's, whether it could be a minister, ordained person, or a clerk, or a deacon, somebody who's like checking in with those people. Like LaTonya said, I missed you, how are you? That kind of thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Hi, I just want to say that one of the things that I do, I have like a hybrid service, and we do have more people online than we do in the sanctuary. However, one of the things that we do, that especially online, because I live in a rural area where not all people even have internet.
Right.
And it's an economically challenged environment. So the way I do Bible study and church, I do it by way of a conference call because I have a lot of seniors, more senior than I am, and they do not know how to navigate the technology. And so therefore, a lot of times they don't want to use their names. I find that most don't want to use their names. However, we use location, and they are really, really excited about that, and they are really interested, and they participate. I give them the time to ask questions, make comments, and things of that nature, and they are really, really excited about it. And we do mail out our Bible study books. We mail out communion package, and also last year when we had our grand opening, people came from all over the United States and they worshiped with us, and they're looking forward to coming this year in August. But I think it's a really great thing, and I think what you all are doing and what I've heard you all doing is very, very, very good. And I'm listening to, so I can go back and try to incorporate some of those things into what we're trying to do. So I think you all are doing a wonderful job.
Thank you so much. When I first started going from the previous church, y'all, it was a lot. We had a conference call. That's why the kids had to be quiet, because I would be preaching to the camera, and the camera connected to the computer so that the people who weren't on social media could be on Zoom. And then there was a phone propped up right there, so the ones who didn't want to call the Zoom number could call the conference number. And so there's a cell phone connected to the computer, connected to the camera, and me in the dining room and the kids in the corner trying to be quiet, right? So I'm so glad I'm not there anymore. And it's, you know, a little bit more organized, but I need to probably rethink reintroducing just a phone way for people too. We just got to think through maybe what that looks like for anyone else. I think we're out of time.
I think we are, yeah.
And I'm
Did
a talker.
everybody have a chance to sign up? I was trying to get the QR code.
Did everybody get the QR?
No.
I'll put it back.
Okay.
Give me just a second.
We really would appreciate it. And one of the things I'm going to ask you is like what you are currently using. Like, do you use chat? Do you have an online person? That kind of information. So, and I love a short, like you can do it in a 1-minute survey, okay? Thank y'all for that. Thank y'all so much, and thank you for sharing, and good job, Pastor.
It's not letting me back on.
That's awesome.